Good morning, Chicago Cubs fans. We are back with another edition of Cubs Daily, presented by Fan Arch. My name is Steven Ryan. Jed Hoyer had his end of the year press conference. We're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about a more grading of the Cubs, and we're going to talk about, of course, probably the story of the offseason, Kyle Tucker. So let's just hop right into it, right? So Jed Hoyer held his press conference earlier today. He was available on Marquee Network, and he went over a myriad of topics, all of which we all probably were having questions about ourselves, right? We talked about Kyle Tucker. We talked about the team's performance in the season. He referenced Wrigley Field and the variability it can play into a season's win total, and a lot of different things. But I'm going to highlight on some of the key points. He talked about, having conversations with Kyle Tucker. And again, I expect him to say that. No one's ever going to just come out and be like, you know what? No, we're just not going to attempt to re-sign him. That's just not a good look. And I think we all understand how this organization works. Jed Hoyer keeps things very, very close to the vest, okay? He does not reveal his playing cards until the moment happens, right? The Kyle Tucker trade last offseason kind of just came quickly out of nowhere, right? There was a report, there was an inkling, next day, done. Shota Imanaga had been signed with the Cubs for about a week before the news was officially announced. He talked about Imanaga in this press conference as well. There's a myriad of options the Cubs can take regarding Mr. Shota. So again, lots of different ways to approach this specific topic, but it kind of just feels like it was a business as usual, right? Jed's obviously not going to say too many things. He doesn't want to lean too forward. He doesn't want to overplay his hand in the situation, but you got to take it for what he says at his word, right? Some of the quotes he had in this thing where he's confident that the team is going to, the front office is going to have enough money to field a good team again. That's excellent to hear. I don't know what that number is specifically, but you'd have to imagine if we're not paying Kyle Tucker, if we don't accept or pick up Shota's option, that's going to free up some more money as well. I don't know how they're going to disperse that, though, of course. Again, we're going to have more full player breakdown for free agents the Cubs can go get coming up over the next month or two. Just a lot of different things you can go with for what Jed said. But from this fan's perspective here, it just kind of seems like a business as usual. He's never going to overplay his hands. People are going to, they even mentioned signing Kyle Schwarber, right, again, and, he kind of just shook it off, and then, he mentioned Cody Bellinger. He talked about how Cody Bellinger really enjoyed being a Cub. Those are all great things to hear, but we need to invest in some of these players, right? That's kind of the key here. And I'm not sure which way the Cubs are going to go in that sense. Even if we don't sign Tucker, that's okay, because we have a lot of players that are going to become arbitration eligible, like Pete Crow Armstrong, Michael Bush, Miguel Amaya, right? Matt Shaw. These are all guys we can sign to, I think, some pretty healthy, lengthy deals for maybe a little bit better bang for the buck now rather than later on. So I'm not sure where Jed's going to go with that, but, he did mention, of course, that pitching depth is going to be a focus, and that's absolutely fantastic to hear. Yes, I was not happy with our offensive performance at the end of the season. You do need to score more than one run if you're going to win a playoff round or two. There's no doubt about that, but my concern with the pitching depth is this. We have a lot of guys who pitch to contact, and they pitch to a fantastic defense, right? We have an awesome defense here in Chicago. There's no doubt about it. The variable we are missing is the ability to strike players out. The swing and miss is not that good. That's why Ben Brown was on the roster, right, for the NLDS. Not because he's just really good against the Brewers, historically speaking, but he's got really good swing and miss potential. So hopefully, maybe he can get in the lab this offseason and continue to develop over the course of a season. Because I would love to see the Ben Brown project work out too, right? Even if he becomes a inning or two reliever, that's going to play value in October one day. But again, different story for a different time. I'm not sure who's out there and available for the Cubs to go get, but we need guys that throw gas, cheddar, the smoke, okay? I need to have that intimidation factor with these pitchers. That's why on this channel, I was a proponent of going to get Joan Duran before he started gambling, Emmanuel Clase, right? Like, those are names, those are guys that when they come in that inning, it's over. It's a wrap, okay? Just like it is for Emmanuel Clase's career. Ha ha, ha ha. But you understand what I'm saying, right? We only have one pitcher that really maybe brings that, and that's Danny Palencia right now. And he's not, how do I say, he's not polished yet. He's not polished. He's got great stuff, but he's not quite there yet. So if the Cubs can go out and find more pitching, hard throwing pitching, swing and miss stuff, I am all for it. I want those guys on the team. You know, they could also save money by not picking up Andrew Kittredge's option. That's a $9 million option, by the way. I imagine that he's not going to be back with the club either. Brad Keller wants to come back. He does throw it relatively hard. That's great to see. But again, I'm talking, I want the 101s, the 102s, you know? And I imagine they don't grow on trees. So Hoyer says pitching depth is a focus. I'm happy to hear that. I'm excited to kind of see what they decide to produce. Now, back to the other aspect, hitting, right? We're going to talk about grading the Cubs. I'm going to talk about my main man, Nico Hoerner, today, okay? Now, I do have a visual graphic for you guys and gals, but that's not the total picture when we're talking about Nico Hoerner, right? A finalist for the Gold Glove, by the way. I'm giving him an A+, right? I think I gave PCA an A. I think this is the best individual season a Cub player had. Michael Busch is probably tied with him because of just the obscene production he gave this team. But Nico Hoerner has been one of the most consistent Cubs ever since he started playing in the big leagues for this team, right? He hits the ball so well. Yes, I know the numbers, they're not necessarily there in terms of power, but again, the on-base percentage, right? The batting average. If I need a base hit, not a walk, not a hit by pitch, if I just need a good quality at bat, I know I'm getting that with Nico Hoerner anytime he comes up to the plate, right? I believe he led Major League Baseball in batting average with runners in scoring position, right? That led to those 61 runs. And so I like Nico. He's a ball player, in my opinion, right? But I think he's really, really dynamic in this Cubs lineup when he bats second. You know, not fifth or sixth or seventh. But when he's up in that lineup, he's batting second, and he can get on base and score runs for this team, that's when we're at our best. Absolutely. And then if the lineup flips over, right, with Matt Shaw and Dansby Swanson on the back end, he can drive them in as well because we just know he's a really, really good hitter. So again, Nico Hoerner, I love this guy. His contract does expire at the end of 2026. I'm really, really hoping we can get something done here soon. I want him to be a Cub for the remainder of his time, okay? He doesn't have, you know, the pop, the gravitas of a Ryan Sandberg, but he definitely embodies what the Chicago Cubs mean and what a Chicago Cub player is, right? He plays great defense. He hits the ball hard on a line drive, and he can steal bases, run the bases well. He is just a well-balanced ball player, and I want him to be a Cub for the remainder of his time as a Major League Baseball player. So just a little, you know, I think he was one of the two best players for the Cubs this season. Now, just one more little bit here, the send-off here on the show, right? We're going to talk about Kyle Tucker, right? It feels assumed by the fan base that he is not going to be returning. If he doesn't return, I'm okay with that. I 100% would have made this trade regardless. Yes, I know Cam Smith was a finalist for Gold Glove. I'm not concerned about that, okay? What Cam Smith did in his rookie year, that's fantastic. I still need to see a few more years out of him before I deem this deal anything of a dud or anything like that. Isaac Paredes had a really good year, right? Guess what? They both were on the Astros. Astros missed the playoffs. So clearly, they missed Kyle Tucker's presence in the lineup, right? And again, we have to remember, Kyle Tucker's overall numbers are not really what a healthy Kyle Tucker does, right? You have to really look at those first 2 months with this Cubs offense to see what he did and what impact he had on this lineup. When that offense was cruising, that is the Kyle Tucker that I think at his best puts this team at an elite level that could compete with the Brewers and the Dodgers and find themselves in a World Series potentially. So again, I would be open to re-signing Kyle Tucker personally. Now, again, the deals have to be correct. I don't think it should be a 10-year or 7-year deal. But for Kyle Tucker, would I give him a 5-year, $200 million deal? I would. I would strongly consider it. Maybe a more friendly 3-year, 120. But again, I don't think he's going to do that. I think another team's going to overpay for him. But Kyle Tucker here did want to thank the fans for an absolutely fun ride here in Chicago. He says, thank you for Chicago for riding with us all year long. Y'all's support was there no matter what, and we couldn't have done it without you. Again, Kyle just does all the right things. Right? He ingrained himself in the Chicago community. He moved his charity here. He, went to Murphy's Bleachers to hand out hats. He just did it all right. He got a DiGiorno deal. Kyle Tucker, whether you want to say it or not, did nothing wrong. He just got hurt. And honestly, he kind of just keeps it like a straight face. So you just really can't read him ever. But again, Jed mentioned it in the press conference. He's earned the right to become a free agent. And he's earned the right to go around and see what teams are going to value him at. And I think that's what the Cubs are going to do in their approach to him. They're going to let him go. They're going to see what other teams are offering him and see if that works within the financial construct of the team. Now, it might not, but I'm curious to see what other teams are going to offer Kyle Tucker because, some reports I've seen on the radio, right? It's starting in the low threes. And I think that's where the Cubs have to start considering it. But again, if the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets are going to come out there and blast 400-something million, I don't think that's worth it to the Cubs. I don't think that's worth it to the city of Chicago. And Kyle Tucker, best of luck. There are other players out there that we can develop and continue to trot out there to potentially develop a championship team here. So that's going to do it for today's edition of Cubs Daily. Again, if you guys and gals are enjoying the content, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below. Who else should we talk about? Let me know some free agents, you guys. We should break down and see if they might be a fit for this roster. So I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next one.